Olof Rudbeck in Atlant, tahun 1672 sampai tahun 1702, his hypothesis states that Atlantis was either on a sunken island in northern Europe, including Sweden, or in the North Sea. Several theories have proposed Al-Andalus or Ireland as a location. The Canary Islands were also stated as a possible location, west of the Straits of Gibraltar but close to the Mediterranean Sea. Various islands in the Atlantic were also identified as possible locations, notably the Azores Islands. The sunken Spartel Island in the Strait of Gibraltar has also been proposed. Indonesia, and the area under the Bermuda Triangle, as well as the Caribbean Sea have been proposed as the location of Atlantis. The story of the lost continent of Kumarikandam in India has inspired some to describe it as a parallel to Atlantis. Ignatius L. Donnelly in his book, Atlantis the Antediluvian World, there is a relationship between Atlantis and Aztlan as the abode of the ancestors of the Aztecs. He claims that the Aztecs point to the Eastern Caribbean as the former location of Aztlan. Some of the theories that have been proposed as the location for the alleged location of Atlantis include 1. Al-Andalus 2. Crete and Santorini 3. Turki 4. Near Cyprus 5. Middle East 6. Malta 7. Sardinia 8. Troy 9. Antarktika 10. Australia 11. Azores Islands 12. Shores of the Bahamas and the Caribbean 13. Bolivia 14. Black Sea 15. England 16. Ireland 17. Canary Islands and Cape Verde 18. Denmark 19. Finland 20. Indonesia 21. Isla de la Juventud near Cuba 22. Meksiko 23. North Sea 24. Extremadura, Portugal 25. Sweden. These are some of the things that support the conditions for where the 24 locations are based on Plato's theory. 1. Atlantis must be located in a place where the land on C existed or partially still exists. 2. Atlantis must have a clear morphology in the form of land and water in a central cluster. 3. Atlantis must be outside the Pillars of Hercules. 4. Atlantis was bigger than Libya and Anatolia, the Middle East and Sinai combined. 5. Atlantis must have been inhabited by an advanced, civilized, intelligent society with skills in metallurgy and navigation. 6. Atlantis should be routinely reachable by sea from Athens. 7. Atlantis had to be in a war situation with Athena. At that time Plato's version. 8. Atlantis had to experience severe physical suffering and destruction due to the earthquake and seawater disasters. 9. Atlantis had to sink entirely or partially underwater. 10. The time of the destruction of Atlantis is 9000 Egyptian years, before the 6th century BC. 11. Atlantis was 50 stadia 7,5 km from the city. 12. Its population of Atlantis should be large enough to support a large army of 10,000 chariots, 1,200 ships, 200,000 troops. 13. The religious characteristic of the inhabitants of Atlantis was the sacrifice of bulls. 14. The destruction of Atlantis due to an earthquake. 15. After the destruction of Atlantis, the shipping lanes were closed. 16. Elephants live in Atlantis. 17. It must be physical or geological processes that caused the destruction of Atlantis. 18. There are hot and cold springs, containing mineral deposits, found in Atlantis. 19. Atlantis is located on a coastal plain measuring 2000 by 3000 stadia, surrounded by mountains directly bordering the sea. 20. Atlantis ruled out her countries in its day. 21. The wind on Atlantis blows from the direction. 22. The rocks of Atlantis were of various color, black, white, and red. 23. Many irrigation channels were built in Atlantis. 24. Every 5 and 6 years, the inhabitants of Atlantis sacrificed bulls. Note the part of the requirements to be the reason that Plato's version of Atlantis is called number 24 that every 5 and 6 years, the inhabitants of Atlantis sacrifice a bull. Kutai inscription 4. The Mula Warman, the noble and distinguished king, has given alms 20,000 cows to the Brahmins who are like fire, house in the Holy Land named Waprakeswara. For a reminder of the king's kindness, this monument was made by the Brahmins who came to this place. The information available was obtained from the Yupa inscription during the sacrificial ceremony. Yupa is a monument made of stone containing writings about King Mulawarman. There are 7 Yupa PHS are the main source for experts in interpreting the history of the Kutai kingdom. The Yupa was made by the Brahman for the generosity of King Mulawarman. From one of these Yupa, it is known that the king who ruled the Kutai kingdom at that time was Mulawarman. His name is recorded in the Yupa because he generously donated 20,000 cows to the Brahmins. The ancestors of the Indonesian nation, the Brahman, was called by European historians as Brahmanism before Veda was written. They were the Saka, the Aryans who braved their dharmic original teachings outside the archipelago while underlies the birth of Buddhism, Hinduism and Jainism. In the past decade, the issue of the existence and glory of the origin of the Indonesian nation, which was often referred to as the archipelago, has begun to emerge. That the archipelago is the center of world civilization starting from Atlantis, Lemuria and Sundaland has begun to be widely discussed. What's more, it is also concluded that the Aryan nation, which is often mentioned as the world's best nation, originates from the archipelago. This discourse coincided with the publication of the translation of 2 controversial books, Atlantis is Indonesia, Arisio Santos, 2009 and Eden in the East, Stephen Oppenheimer, 2010. The Indonesian nation shall be grateful and proud of the publication of these 2 books. The hope is that there will be more academics and professors to conduct in-depth research on the existence of this Indonesian nation's ancestors. So far, the Indonesian nation has been taught history based on historical researchers from the colonial peoples and taught in elementary and secondary schools, also taught to history students, and why has resulted in historians and archaeology who are stuttering, because its history is ambiguous, made by the Dutch colonialists. So all history and archaeology that is circulating is history why his ally aimed at preventing Indonesia from having an identity. This issue says that the history we know today is the result of a conspiracy by the Dutch or other Western countries to shrink Indonesia. The biggest contribution of the Saka or Aryans to civilization is the introduction of the concept of Dharma. This is the concept of the teachings of the archipelago's ancestors, which was depicted in Borobudur, starting in Suvarnatvipa until now it is perfectly preserved in Bali. The ancestors of the Indonesian nation, the Brahman, was called by European historians as Brahmanism before Veda was written down. They are the Saka of the Aryans, who braved their dharmic original teachings outside the archipelago while underlies the birth of Buddhism, Hinduism and Jainism in India. The original Indonesian teaching, dharmic original, was braved outside the archipelago, starting from being studied in Suvarnatvipa, Sumatra, to be precise in an area that was once a landmark place of learning and education, namely the Muara Takus site. This is an area or place visited by pilgrims or other Chinese and Asian students who come to study, record the teachings of our ancestors and then carry them and develop them in their respective countries, not carrying the teachings of Buddhism, and then spreading them to the archipelago. Stephen Oppenheimer's analysis, Eden in the East of Atlantis in the Indian Ocean. Eden in the East, in a recent book, Drowned, Continent of Southeast Asia, Phoenix Paperback, London 1999-1998. Stephen Oppenheimer had guessed the area on one part of the continental shelf, the area between Malaysia, Sumatra, Java, Kalimantan, Thailand, Vietnam, China and Taiwan, which was largely inhabited during the Ice Age. Stephen Oppenheimer argues that in earlier times this region was the center of the most advanced civilization. He calls it Eden, the biblical name of heaven, from Eden's Sumerian, alluvial plains, because Western Asian sources including the Bible do not look for human origins or at least civilization, in the East. In some cases, such as in the Sumerian reference, the designation is clearly a pre-Harappan civilization and Harappan culture, even pointing to the territory of the eastern countries seemingly toward the territory of Indonesia today. The origins of religion in India began with the entry of the Aryan Chakya, Saka nation with brave enormous changes in the life order of Indian society from 3,102 BC to 1,300 BC. That the Aryans were not the first inhabitants of India and the Harappan, Dravidian, civilization existed long before their arrival. This means that the Aryan or Vedic culture was not the sole source of early civilization in India, that the source came from elsewhere. This change occurred because the Aryans carried out cultural integration with the native Indian, Dravidian, and then this integration gave birth to tiga Indian religions. The Aryan nation after it started writing the Vedic scriptures. This holy book was written in 4 parts such as Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajurveda, and Atharva Veda. So, Saka is the name of a nation who came to India and expanded to migrate to Central Asia, Eastern Europe and North Anatolia in the period after the Mahabharata War 3162 BC, around 3100–3000 BC. Europeans called the Saka. With Scythian, this is what is meant by Aryan, the ancestors of the Indonesian people who colored 3/4 of the earth's face as well as the land of India. Tony Joseph, author of the book Early Indians, The Story of Our Ancestors and Where We Came From, published by Juggernaut, writes that 1,000 years earlier the people, Ras Arya also went to Europe, replaced and mingled with farmers Tere, gave birth to a new culture and spread Indo-European languages. Other genetic studies have proven that Tere are many nations who migrated to India, originating from Southeast Asia, strengthened by the large number of speakers of Austro-Asian languages. That the Aryans were not the first inhabitants of India and the Harappan, Dravidian, civilization existed long before their arrival. This means that the Aryan or Vedic culture was not the sole source of civilization in India and its earliest sources came from elsewhere. It is generally believed that the Saka era began in 78 AD. Critical and comprehensive study of epigraphic and literary references from the Saka era. The conclusion that the Saka era and the Sakanta era were not identical. The Saka era began in 583 BC while the Sakanta era began in 78 AD. Chronological history ancient India has been proposed since 661 years because these two different epochs were mistakenly assumed to be identical. Source: Academia Edu of the Saka period. That the Aryans were not the first inhabitants of India and that the Harappan, Dravidian, civilization existed long before their arrival. They have campaigned to change the school curriculum and remove every word mentioning Aryan immigration from history books. The writing above is quoted from Tony Joseph, the author of Early Indians. From the text of the sentence Mahabharata Udyoga Parva, 108 it can be interpreted and even concluded that is the beginning of teachings, before being recorded as a book called Veda. In India before the 9th century AD, a new teaching was born to distinguish not two religions that was born in the 5th century BC nor Islam based on Veda. And if the beginning of the book, Veda, is in India, then there can be no direction of the location designated as is. This is where the creator of the universe first sang Veda in the East. The literacy of the word Timur in the text quoted the sentence above means Southeast Asia. Svarnadvipa Nusantara Indonesia. This is where the Dharmic original teachings originated and were studied long before the existence of teachings that were born in India. The ancestors of the Indonesian nation, the Brahman, was referred to by European historians as Brahmanism. Before Veda was written, they were the Saka, the Aryans who brought their Dharmic original teachings outside the archipelago which underlies the birth of Buddhism, Hinduism and Jainism. Oppenheimer is a medical doctor who has lived in Southeast Asia for several years. He was clearly influenced by Marxism, for example where he rejected religion as a means of controlling the work of others, with explicit reference to Karl Marx Das Kapital p. 483. His book is based on strong scientific research, genetic, anthropological, linguistic and archaeological, and in that it differs greatly from the many interesting Atlantean books. Interestingly enough, is comparative mythology, many cultures, and especially those in the Asia-Pacific zone, have very parallel myths of one or more of the flood stories. This is not a blurry allusion to Freudian events in unconscious references but certainly historical to catastrophic moments in the long drawn-out revival of sea level after the Ice Age. Bechaus? Indeed, this increase was not a continuous process but it happened correctly, why as a result of the flood disaster destroyed all the tribes living near the coast. The latter took place by a sudden sea level rise as it did in 5500 BC, after which the sea level returned several meters to this level. According to Oppenheimer, Southeast Asia is the territory of the civilization of Atlantis, while it is called Sundaland Bechaus it is now the continent of the Sundanese Plate. The civilization of Atlantis was the world leader in the Neolithic Revolution, starting from agriculture using stone to green wild grain as early as 24,000 ago, more than 10,000 years older than in Egypt or Palestine. Before and especially during the gradual flooding of their lowlands, host inhabitants called the Sundalanders spread to neighboring lands, mainland Asia including China, India and Mesopotamia, and the island world from Madagascar to the Philippines and New Guinea, where they intervened with the Polynesian Race until to Easter Island, Hawaii and New Zealand. Oppenheimer aligns archaeologists with the spread of language in controversy about the source of the Austronesian language family Malay, Tagalog, Maori, Malagasy etc., have places it in Sundaland and its upper regions which now reach the coast of Southeast Asian countries, whereas most scholars the language maintains that southern China was the land of origin. From the argument regarding chronology, Oppenheimer proposes a higher chronology than Peter Bellwood and other out of China theories. My experience with the AI study led me to support a higher chronology, for new findings e.g. that, pre-AI, people like the Pelasgians and Etruscans, not talking about the Harappans, turned out to have earlier, Aryan, entrance, having consistently pushed the date. Pi fragmentation goes back in time. Another reason for not relying too heavily on the theories of linguists is that Austronesian linguistics is a very demanding field, comprising the study of hundreds of small languages mostly devoid of literature, so the number of native scholars is much smaller than in the case of IE, and even in the latter case linguists are nowhere near consensus on the Homeland question. Linguistic evidence is very soft evidence, and usually the data admit more than one historical reconstruction, so I don't think there is solid evidence against the Sundaland Homeland hypothesis. In contrast, the archaeological and genetic evidence supporting the dispersal of the Austronesian-speaking population from the Sundanese self appears to be insufficient. It is quite certain that some of these Austronesians must have landed in India, some of their travels to Madagascar, some to live and mingle with the natives. Hence the Austronesian presence of a few words in the Indian language of all families, the most prominent being the word, I, baby, mother, as in the names of the Marathi girls Tarabai, Lakshmi Bai etc., or the word for, bamboo, fruit, honey. More spectacularly, linguists like Isidore Dian have distinguished a fairly large general vocabulary in the core lexicon of Austronesian and Indo-European, including, numerals e.g. Malay Deva, and terms for elements. Oppenheimer does not get into this question, but perhaps uses his findings to suggest an Aryan invasion of India not from the northwest, but from the southeast. But he does not mention the legend of Manu Vaivasvata saving his company from a flood and sailing up the river from India to settle high and dry in Saptasindhu. Clearly, the origins of the Vedic civilization are linked to a post-glacial flood, perhaps one of the greatest triggers for migration in human history. Tamils have a tradition that their Puts Academy or Sangam existed for 10,000 years, and that seat, along with the rest of the Tamil capital, had to be moved 3 times due to rising sea levels. They also believe that their territory was once as extensive as stretching further south, including Sri Lanka and Maldives, a lost continent Tamil called Kumarihandam. If these legends turn out to fit the geological evidence neatly enough, our academics will be wrong to dismiss them as figments of the imagination. But India or Kumarihandam in line with Oppenheimer's Book of Sundaland has not been written. These are indeed perhaps the most important practical conclusions that can be drawn from this book. Another language family that originated in parts of the Sundaland is Austroasiatic, which includes the Mon Khmer languages in Indochina. The demographic point of gravity being Vietnamese, but also Nicobar and the Munda language of Chotanagpur, at one time probably used the public to speak all over Ganga. TC where the Munda start brave rice cultivation from Southeast Asia to the Ganges Basin, from where it reached the Indus Valley toward the end of the civilization at Harapan ca. 2300 BC. In this connection, it shall be noted that Oppenheimer asserts that, cultivated in the Indus Valley, p. 19 barley being the favorite crop of the Aryan Veda, Java. In contrast to the Mundas who brave rice cultivation from eastern India and finally from Southeast Asia to northwest India, and only the Indo-European Kurgan Jose invasion of Europe could be followed by means of their imported crops sp. Millet, the Aryan Veda uses only genuine products. This does not prove but clearly supports the suspicion that the Aryans were native to the Indus Valley. Regarding political polemics, the usual claim that a caste system with sharp discrimination was shaped by the Aryans as an invading nation. Here, Oppenheimer asserts that in Austroasiatic and Austronesian societies, where many of the Indian tribes originated, the divide was planted, but the class structure that cripples Britain more than any other European country, is nothing compared to hierarchy stratified in traditional Austronesian society from Madagascar via Bali to Samoa. This awareness of this rank is clearly not something that only Austronesian people will have from Indian influence later. p. 484. Social hierarchy is not racist imposition by Aryans, but a near universal phenomenon that is especially prominent among Indo-Pacific societies including most non-Aryan populations. Stephen Oppenheimer makes a very detailed and very strong case for the cultural importance of the Sundaland continental basin for later culture in a wide environment. India also benefits from something imported from there. What has been lost is a similar study of the equally important and also neglected culture of the sunken lands of the Indian coast. Dr. Conrad Els 2002. Stephen Oppenheimer, born 1947, is a British pediatrician, geneticist, and author. He is a graduate of Templeton College, Oxford and an honorary fellow of the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. In addition to his work in tropical medicine and disease, he has published popular works in the field of genetics and human prehistory. Oppenheimer trained in medicine at Oxford and London universities, qualifying in 1971. From 1972 he worked as a clinical pediatrician, mainly in Malaysia, Nepal and Papua New Guinea. He conducts clinical research in the areas of nutrition, infectious diseases including malaria, and genetics, focusing on the interactions between nutrition, genetics and infection, particularly the nutrient iron, thalassemia and malaria.